Welcome back to another episode of Sports Medicine on Tap. My name is Brandon Align. I'm sitting at Neck of the Woods Brewing Company enjoying a deliciously cold Bahama Breeze sour with my good friend Dr. Frey. Dr. Frey, how you doing this evening?
Spectacular.
I can't complain. It's a great night here at Neck of the Woods like it always is. And
a nice little event going on in the back. We were not invited.
Yeah, I know, right? I think there's a nursing association back there. They left us out. But we're here and we have a special guest this evening.
Yes, we do. Interesting, off the beaten path kind of topic.
Yeah. So typically how we do the show is that Dr. Frey and I text each other at all kinds of weird hours of the day when we find out news about information or injuries or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And usually we kind of automatically have a guest lined up, like, we should ask so and so.
Yeah.
But this one was a little different.
A little bit careful.
We let this subject marinate for about a week and a half or so, and now we're here. So Dr. Frey, who do we find for this topic tonight?
So I'd like to introduce one of the docs from Virtua. So Reconstructive Orthopedics, our group, recently joined the Virtua Medical Group, so part of the Virtua system. And we have one of the thoracic surgeons from Virtua, Dr. Matt Poots. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. This is a great honor.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked to be here.
All right.
It's the first time I've done a podcast, so this is kind of exciting territory for me.
Right.
Best one to join for the first time, absolutely.
That's
I
right.
would have to say that. And a quick shout out to Neck of the Woods.
Heck yeah, baby. Speaking of which, Frank may be joining us pretty soon. We'll see how that goes, but I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Very neat place. I'll have to come back.
Yeah.
But my name is Matt Poots. I'm a thoracic oncologist up at Virtua. I practice primarily out of the Marlton campus.
Okay.
So I deal with a lot of oncologic issues, but I operate in the chest pretty much every day. I go to the OR.
Right.
And we do a lot of pneumothoraces. That's the key topic today. So we see that on a regular basis. That's a non-malignant process, but we see it on a regular basis. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
So typically, we'd see this, like you said, you see this in your world, in this oncologic world, but also then you see it in like this kind of high level trauma and that sort of a thing. But this one's a little bit off the beaten path, like I said. Brandon, why don't you give us a little bit of the background?
Sure. So as mentioned, I think it was about a week and a half ago or so, just doing my usual Twitter dive, as I always do, to find interesting topics, and I came across NBA player C.J. McCollum, a guard for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Formerly Lehigh, right? He went to Lehigh, I think.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he was one of those like unusual path to the NBA. Even though he had a great career.
Yeah. And it was reported they had pneumothorax, and I was like, wow, that's different. And as per every time I see an injury that's a little different, I text Dr. Frey almost immediately. And it was kind of odd. I mean, I tried to dive down a little bit and try to get more into the article and like kind of find out what was going on. It was reported on Sunday that he got the injury, but he played a game the night before, played about 33 minutes. There's no incident on video or anything that happened.
Right.
Just the next day, he kind of could report he has small pneumothorax and he's out indefinitely. And then, so we bring the specialist in to talk, figure out what the heck's going on with this one.
Well, the plot thickens, right? Because then it comes out he had one 2 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
2021, rib contusion or something. And a reminder, we go through this every time, but we don't actually have access to his medical records, right? We're not revealing his medical chart. There's just some public information about it, and we're sort of speculating based off of that. And there really isn't a ton of information about this one. We're like, it's a little bit of a guessing game.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just out there.
Right. So, yeah. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, so I agree. When you asked me to be on, I kind of referenced or researched some of this and very limited information. And so one of the first things I'm trying to wonder is, like, this didn't happen during a game. It was just kind of the next day. I think it was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
They reported a pneumothorax. They didn't really say, like, did he have symptoms? What kind of imaging was done? And then, as you said, as you go deeper, he had one 2 years ago. That one was related to a game. That's when he was still with the Trailblazers in 2021.
Yep.
Right.
And along with the pneumothorax was this rib contusion. So I can only imagine that he had, some trauma during the game. I mean, these guys are getting tossed and turned, on a regular basis.
Right.
Banged around,
If you take a couple hard falls on that hardwood floor, you can get anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. But there was no rib fracture, so that's number one that stood out. Yeah. So this was just a a contusion.
Yeah.
Right.
So now that kind of falls into my mind is, what sparked that? That's just,
Right.
he must have got hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
But this whole concept of spontaneous pneumothoraces also exists. So maybe he's predisposed. Maybe, I don't have access to a CAT scan. Maybe he's got some underlying lung disease, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But, it could be anything. But the fact that now it turns up, I'm kind of curious. Like, how did they find that? Or why did they find it?
Right.
Even before we go there, just for the, because I think that like it's sort of a black box for the average listener. Like,
Right.
So just to define, like, what is a pneumothorax?
Yeah, good question. Thanks for reminding me.
Sure.
Like, what's a pneumothorax?
Right,
What
right.
are we talking about?
Exactly.
So basically, your lungs sit in your chest cavity,
Yeah.
and there's a potential space between the edge of the lung and the chest wall on the inside. When air gets in between that lung and the chest wall, that's a pneumothorax.
Okay.
And that can happen for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Usually it leaks from the lung surface for some reason. But, you can get amounts of air that can vary from a little bit to massive pneumothoraces that collapse the whole lung.
Right.
And,
Right.
and so that's what we're talking about. So
Yeah.
there's air where it shouldn't be, as I say,
Right.
between the lung and outside the lung, inside the ribs.
Right.
Right. The air belongs in the lung, not outside.
Not
of
outside
right.
the lung.
Right.
Right. Yeah. That's
It's usually better that way.
Exactly, right. So yeah, and I think that's where it's kind of interesting, right? Where we don't really know what happened. Like you alluded to 2 years ago when he was with Trailblazers, I think it was a game against the Celtics or whatever the report said. He got hit, had a rib contusion, and then he had a pneumothorax there then, and then he was out for about 3 weeks from there.
right.
And so now this one was reported as a small pneumothorax based off whatever ESPN deters as small.
Yeah.
And I think it was reported as the same side as the last time that he got injured.
Yeah.
That is true. I looked, make sure it was the right side, and they did mention the right side. The other thing I saw, you said 3 weeks. I think I saw that too, but I also saw 1.5 months
Oh wow.
Right.
that he was out last time, like 2 years ago. That is.
Yeah.
So again,
It's-
what's real, what isn't,
Right.
I don't know.
I was trying to read through it as well, and I don't remember the exact timing, but I think maybe both of these are right. From what I understood, is it resolved after 3 weeks, but they kept him out an additional 3 weeks
That
before
makes
they
sense.
let him go back and play.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that was going. That was like that. That's the discrepancy there. I almost wonder, and I don't know the details on the timing of how things were revealed with that particular injury.
Right.
It almost makes me wonder, like at what point did they report rib contusion, and at what point did pneumothorax come out? Is it possible that this was like a spontaneous pneumothorax? They didn't know he had a problem. They say, rib contusion. And then they get an x-ray 2 days later and like, ooh, there's a little bit of air in there.
Right.
And there's something else
Right.
going on. And because would it be common to have a pneumothorax with just a rib contusion, not actually a fracture?
Yeah, so that's considered, a pneumothorax with blunt trauma.
Yeah. Okay, so
And-
maybe.
And so you can, but in my mind, in those settings, you've got to have some underlying issue,
Right.
for that to happen, because people get hit in the chest all day long. You're a
Right.
sports trainer. You mean
Yeah.
football? I mean, these guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
getting knocked. Why isn't anyone coming up with a pneumothorax?
Right,
You
right.
should get X-rays after every game, but you're
Yeah.
not.
Right.
So clearly, I think in his case, I bet you he's got some predisposition.
Right.
And what I see with these spontaneous pneumo people at his age, and that's very like that kind of a typical age to present, is the way I describe it is people have these like micro bubbles on the surface of the lung.
Right.
And those micro bubbles are susceptible. That's what they can rupture and burst really, without warning. That's really the classic spontaneous.
Right.
And when you go to do surgery,
Yeah.
you'll see these little surface bubbles that are kind of the culprit.
Here he comes.
Welcome, Frank. It's good to see you, buddy.
Making a grand entrance.
Wait.
There you go.
Making a grand entrance.
There
I
he
like
is.
it. I like it. After we've already begun.
Yes.
So
So
we're
now the table is full of four.
full of four, right? Yes. So we're talking about CJ McCollum, pneumothorax, sort of a weird, unusual thing. I'm sure you see a little bit of this, of course, while you're at work as well. Just haven't gotten too far into it. Sort of, what's the cause? What is it? And that kind of a thing. But we're going to go from there.
And it's not related to COVID, right?
But I don't know.
No.
It's an
Maybe.
excellent question.
Now you're throwing in another
Yeah.
wrench.
Another curveball. I didn't know that was a possible COVID issue. Is it particularly related?
It could be. It could be. I mean, with COVID, all bets are off nowadays. But we've definitely
Such a
seen
weird virus.
this is really the severe end of COVID.
Right.
These are patients who are hospitalized, probably not, a professional athlete walking around on the streets.
Right.
What about vaping?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought, man.
I mean, like, it just seems like all the literature that I've seen, patients in the OR that were taken back there for different types of video thoracoscopic surgery,
Yep.
with some injury with vaping.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
what does that do to the lungs? I mean,
Yeah.
could that predispose somebody to?
Correct. So when we talk about the big category of pneumothoraces, yes, tobacco exposure, vaping definitely can contribute to lung injury and can definitely predispose to these things. So,
Right.
so folks who I see with these events, if they're smoking or vaping, then I have to encourage them to
Strongly.
sustain and get off if they can.
Back off, buddy.
Because they're more likely to have it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I often wonder what is going to be, the issue down the line with people
So-
and young people.
Yeah, vaping specifically, we don't have all that data that we have with tobacco, right? Decades and decades. Vaping's relatively new, so we're still trying to get all that data. But to your point, yeah, I mean, it's just, give another 10 years,
Right.
we're going to see probably some downsides.
I find it very interesting, and and we're getting off topic a little bit here, but sometimes it's fun to do that, right? But if it was like vaping was like at the forefront, like how bad this is, and how like where this is going, and when COVID hit, and then vaping just off the map, right? Like of course, like the world changed overnight, and like I feel like it hasn't come back, but like it was just sort of becoming a big deal, just how bad this can potentially be.
Correct.
With people with all these issues. So I don't know. I like your insight there.
But I'm wondering, because I hear it from my kids.
Right.
I got kids in high school,
Yeah.
and they're always like, hey, this guy's vaping and this guy's vaping or this girl's vaping.
Scary stuff.
And these are athletes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
these are athletes.
So you wonder, like, if somebody's starting at the age of 16 nowadays vaping, and they make it to their 30s and they're a professional player, are they, predisposed to
Setting themselves up.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
Who knows?
CJ's not vaping.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we hope, right?
Well, talking about lighting it up.
Yeah.
We have a beer over there called XRP.
Right. Yeah, baby.
That's one of our hazy double IPAs.
Yeah.
Which it's probably one of our most juiciest, hoppiest beers that we have on the menu.
Yeah.
But that'll be going in the cans on next Tuesday.
Heck yeah, baby.
So I don't know if anybody wants to try something out.
Why is it called XRT? What's the-
XRP.
XRP. Sorry.
Yeah, so XRP is a cryptocurrency. It's like, you have the big guy, Bitcoin. You have the next one down, Ethereum.
Dogecoin or Ethereum. Sorry. Yeah.
Dogecoin, yeah.
Yeah. Is that still going or no?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't look at it anymore. It's
I'll
too
talk to
depressing.
Elon tonight. Yeah. So the cryptocurrency XRP was rumored to kind of like be the next
Next
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. That's what
Okay.
everyone's searching for, right?
Yeah. And its market value is so much lower than Bitcoin. So you can go out and buy, 62 cents for a share as
Right.
opposed to, I don't know what Bitcoin's
Whatever
at now,
crazy number.
$37,000.
Right
Is it really?
I think it went back up.
Yeah, it's back
again
up
on that.
37,000.
It was like insane. And then,
Yeah, it was at 68,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it dropped below 20 a couple months ago or whatever.
Right.
I don't follow it too close, so.
Yeah.
Crazy world.
It is. But this is one of our good double IPAs. This sits at 8%, so we're just going to drink a little sip of it.
Yeah, just a little
Cheers,
taste.
gentlemen.
But
It was
cheers.
extremely tasty.
Oh, thank you.
Very tasty.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Hoppy, baby.
I
That's
can see the
serious
juicy-
hop, man.
Juiciness there.
Yeah, it's like extra. like you
Yeah,
said.
so for this one we do Citra, which is, phenomenal hop there. We used a little bit of this Nelson Sauvin hop, which as it kind of sounds is like a wine, like a grape flavor.
It does sound like that.
So you get a little bit of grapey notes or wine notes from it.
Yeah.
But hands down, the Citra dominates. So
course.
those citrus flavors.
Great. Yeah. The lemony, almost, not lemony, but grapefruity almost a little bit. Yeah. Big
Yep.
time.
Yeah, most people will reference grapefruit as a flavor for the majority of all those New England style
Right.
IPAs.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
And back to the bleb.
the bulla.
Yeah. So how do you fix something like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, specifically CJ, we don't know really what's going on.
Right.
And if it's a small enough pneumothorax, which I'm suspecting it is, he
Right.
didn't get hospitalized. He didn't get a
Right.
tube placed.
Right.
So a lot of times if people have massive or significant pneumothoraces, we put chest tubes in there. We put a tube in between the chest, get it into that space, evacuate the air, and get the lung re-expanded. And a lot of times that will help seal the hole wherever it is on the lung surface. In this case, yeah, clearly he did not get hospitalized.
Right.
He's walking around, so it was probably small enough that whatever occurred probably created a hole, sealed, and now he's got some air trapped between the lung and the chest wall. And those folks, you can just watch. Just watch, and eventually that air will get reabsorbed and go away.
So you don't have to put a tube, you just let
Correct.
it do its thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It just absorbs
It
kind
just
of.
reabsorbs itself. There's
Right.
a lot of physiology behind that, which we won't get into.
Sure.
But the body knows what it's doing, and,
Yeah.
and it gets rid of the air.
Do you ever get that crepitus?
Well, you can if you have crepitus. So what's now we're
What
throwing
is
out
crepitus?
terms.
Oh,
crepitus.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Crepitus is so much fun.
It's Rice Krispies.
Because when you touch it, it has this Rice Krispie sound
Right,
and
right,
feel.
right.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So crepitus is air underneath the skin.
Whoa.
So if you feel someone with crepitus, it
Yeah.
feels like Rice Krispies, or sounds like and feels like Rice Krispies. That's when people have really bigger injuries, and
Right.
in the air, instead of being trapped in the chest, leaks out
Yeah.
underneath the skin.
Right.
So
that
there-
sounds like a worse problem.
That's usually a bigger injury.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. That's
Yeah.
more like motor vehicle crash, or fall from a ladder or something dramatic.
Do you guys remember this? I think it was about a year ago, where there was Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
On the Chargers,
Yeah,
right?
That was 2020-ish, around there.
Oh, so maybe it was
Yeah.
so it was a few years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
But was his I think his team doc, he had like rib pain or costochondritis or something or other, and they were injecting his ribs and wound up with a pneumo.
Oh, went
Yeah.
too deep.
And
Went
that,
too deep.
And then that became the start of Justin Herbert becoming
Yeah.
the starting quarterback over there. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
Tyrod Taylor's not on the same team.
No.
The Buffalo, or I forget where.
I think there's a lawsuit with that too after that whole incident.
Oh, gosh.
With Tyrod Taylor and whoever the team doc was at the time, or whoever did it.
Right.
Because I did look that up. I was trying to find other cases of pneumothorax that were like kind of popular pro sports.
It's pretty unusual.
Tyrod
yeah.
Taylor came up, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I do remember that. He lost his job that way.
Right, lost his job over it.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
That's
well,
what we call iatrogenic,
iatrogenic. Yeah, the worst kind. The
Yes.
worst
Yeah.
kind.
induced by human hand.
Right, right. That was an unbelievable one.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I think Justin Herbert's taken over that job at some point anyway.
Oh yeah,
Like, he
without
was-
a doubt. Yeah, he was
the heir
due to
apparent.
do it. I mean, that was his rookie season, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And then he just started because they had no other option at the time. And the next thing you know, he does really well. Decisions made. Tyrod Taylor has kind of bounced back around, goes his backup position, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think he's on the IR right now with the Giants, and he's not playing either.
Yeah. Hence DeVito
Yeah.
living with
DeVito.
his mother.
Uh-huh. Interesting story in that one too.
For sure. But so all right. So again, we were all a little, I think, taken. Not that we were taken off guard, but like it was sort of again, it's kind of surprising the way all of this happened. What would be some of the symptoms someone would exhibit if they had this particular problem? Someone comes in, so let's say again, it's sort of the unicorn, right? It's pretty rare here, but one of your athletes comes into the training room the next day, and what are they complaining about that you're gonna be like, we should probably get a chest X-ray to potentially look at this.
Yeah, it's interesting. You say all of your younger athletes. These are the folks that are at risk for spontaneous pneumothoraces out in the public, in the population. Obviously, playing sports, you can get traumatic hits, but usually what it is you'll have some degree of chest pain.
Right.
And that can vary. Because when you have air where it shouldn't be, outside the lung again, that hurts.
Right.
Yeah.
You get what we call pleurisy. That's inflammation of the inner lining. That's just inflammation anywhere in the body can be painful.
Right.
If you have a significant enough of a lung collapse, you can be short of breath. You can be a little bit winded.
Right.
Again, if you're young and primed athletes, it usually takes a pretty significant amount, but if you're at peak of performance, you'll notice a decrease.
Yeah.
It'll be subtle, but you'll notice some decrease in your abilities. So, chest pain, shortness of breath, feeling fatigued, or kind of very vague, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what most people experience.
Do people feel it when it happens? Like if they have this bleb and it, this little thin
Yeah.
area of the bulla, and it just like the thin area, like you said, and it just pops. Do they feel the moment it happens?
Yes.
Does it hurt?
Yes, for the most part they will, because it is a sudden event, and if you put air, again, where it shouldn't be, very quickly, yeah, people feel it.
Okay.
And they'll tell me, they'll come in and say, oh yeah, it happened. I was just sitting around doing nothing, and boom, and all of a sudden it hit me. So it is a pretty sudden, dramatic event when it happens.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So this can happen as you're sitting on the couch watching TV and you're
Yes.
reaching over for something.
Something like this, Frank? What
Yes.
the heck?
Reaching over for another IP.
Yeah, like a pineapple upside
IPA.
down cake sour, where we take pineapples and maraschino cherries and a little bit of maple brown sugar. That's
Just
next
like
one
that.
up.
What's this one? Pineapple?
This
What?
is a pineapple upside down cake. This was one of our most popular beers at Sourfest.
I was gonna say, this is sour. It looks very sour. Right,
yeah.
right.
So every year we do a Sourfest in May. We do it out in the back parking lot. We have like 30 different sour beer combinations.
Gotcha.
And it's just like the sky's the limit. I just try to come up with a culinary idea and then replicate that in liquid form.
So, Frank, I didn't do you justice. I was talking to Dr. Poots about the Sourfest. How many sours did you have? How many different types of sours did you have this year?
We had 30 sours and
That's
30
close.
sours.
I said 40.
no, we had 14 seltzers as well. So
There you go.
44, baby.
yeah, so we were up there. And every year it's growing, and that's the fun thing.
And you make those all on site.
All on site.
That's exactly what I said. Like, how logistically, how do you pull that off? And we actually we talked about this on another. Like, it's amazing. It's an incredible feat of timing and logistics, really. Like,
And ingredients and in ordering all that kind of stuff. That's
Right.
that's the logistical nightmare.
right.
You know, and then this one's not going to come in on time, so yeah, it has to be started ahead of time.
Yeah.
But no, I like doing that kind of stuff. I like tasting something in a solid form and then saying, all right, how can I put that into the liquid?
Yeah.
And I find that using sours is a great base because inherently this has tartness to it.
I love it.
We're going to add all these ingredients that have sweetness to it, so the sweet and the tart kind of balance each other out.
I know. I love it. I'm a guy. I don't know if it's like a Polish background and like kraut and whatnot, but I love that vinegary, soury. I just love that kind of flavor. So I'm a huge fan of sours.
I've never had a sour beer.
Never had a
awesome.
sour
Wow.
beer.
I have to say, this is the first time.
It's like drinking candy, isn't it?
It is.
It's delicious.
It's delicious.
Yeah,
Should
yeah.
hand this out on Halloween.
You're going to be the most popular house
Here
on
you
the
go.
block. That's how you do it.
Exactly.
Well, we actually did a Sour Patch Kid beer for Sourfest, where when you got the beer, you got Sour Patch
yeah.
Kid in there too.
Yeah,
That was the
cool.
best part of it.
Yes.
That was one of my favorites for sure.
That's the best part.
But this one, I mean, I get like maple and
Big
you know,
time
like-
maple.
like
Yeah.
brown
Yeah.
sugary.
Like
Yeah.
time, which I find like that's not usually part of a sour. I don't know what the right word is, but that's not usually part of a sour. Like
Yeah, the
like
profile of the sour.
profile. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was
Yep,
looking
yep,
for.
yep.
Yeah. But again, that's you think about a pineapple upside down cake.
Right.
You're if you have 10 to choose from,
Yeah.
you're going for that one that has that ooey gooey
Drippy.
brown sugary.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, with the nice cherries on top.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
You nailed that one.
yes, that's how I
Yeah, absolutely.
usually, gravitate towards the ingredients. Is what do I want to get out of this?
Yeah,
And make that the most prominent ingredient.
for sure.
Most of the time it works. Sometimes it backfires on me. but-
Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But
It's okay.
that
The
is
risk you take being creative, though.
That's right.
Look, it is very painful to do it, but every now and then you do have to throw something away.
Right.
Yeah.
And Saturday or Sunday, I had to load up the back of my truck and throw some beer away. And
What?
I know. But that was a sour beer.
Yeah.
And without getting too nerdy about it, but during the souring process, because we use a lactobacillus culture, which basically will acidify the beer, in the presence of oxygen, you can create an off flavor. And, this wasn't butyric acid because that's bile, putrid. This was isovaleric acid.
Yeah.
And the isovaleric acid has like a stinky Parmesan cheese, stinky Sneakers.
Yeah. That doesn't sell well.
No, it doesn't.
Not good for beer.
That wouldn't be a
or
top
anything
seller.
else.
And that beer had blueberries, it had honey, it had figs,
Yeah.
it had all these wonderful fruit plum.
Sounds delicious right until you got to stinky Parmesan feet.
Yeah, the stinky shoe lost me there. Yep.
And what happened is it just kind of evolved over time.
Yeah.
And, the QC
I think evolved
team
is
had
the
to
right
say,
word. Is not the right word. I think it's degraded.
Degraded.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
Remember,
yeah,
Steve Jobs didn't invent the iPhone right at the first try. He
Yeah,
had a lot
yeah.
of failures, so
absolutely.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
it's always good.
It is.
Yeah.
It's fun experiment.
Yeah.
All right, so when I go back to residency, which is probably about the last time I had to put in a chest tube, it brings back horrible memories. Is pretty standardly we were doing that in the ER, and people were pretty unhappy with us as we were doing it.
Yeah.
Is that still how things go with this particular issue?
Hopefully not. So I think we've evolved.
All right.
We've hopefully figured out things better. Now a lot of tubes are put in the ER.
Right.
Now in the ER, the nice thing is people can be sedated,
Right.
and you make sure they're in a different world.
Yeah.
And they use a lot of local.
A lot of local.
If you do it the right way, it should not be an uncomfortable experience.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the key thing. If you do it the right way.
What's the point of the chest tube? What exactly is it doing?
But it
Yes.
is kind of blind, right? I mean,
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, so a chest tube at the bedside, and that's what I always say as a thoracic surgeon. I can put a tube in anywhere, but it is blind at the bedside. I cannot direct it because I can't see.
Right.
So we do have interventional radiologists nowadays that can do it with ultrasound guidance, CT guidance, fluoroscopy, which is a lot more direct,
Live X-ray.
or visual. You can
Yeah.
kind of put the tube where it needs to go. But with that being said, hopefully we make people as comfortable as possible. We have anesthesia available if need be, and we kind of knock you out and put it in. But the tube actually evacuates the air.
Right.
So again, the pneumothorax is air where it shouldn't be. The tube
Yeah.
goes in, evacuates the air,
Yeah.
and if you have a continuous air leak, then it stays in as long as you need to because that can continue to evacuate air.
When you say continuous air leak, what does that mean?
So-
is it coming through? Like person inhales, it goes through their lungs and back
Yep.
into that spot,
You
or
got it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's an injury in the surface of the lung somewhere. That's what initiated the pneumothorax. That has to seal,
Right.
so the pneumothorax can be evacuated or resolved. But if it doesn't heal right away, and usually it doesn't, a lot of times you need some tube in there to keep it working and keep things going the right direction.
Yeah.
So it's there as long as you need it, evacuates the air, eventually it seals, and then you can take the tube out.
is there anything that can help make that process go faster?
Well, a lot of times I say Mother Nature's in charge.
Right.
Depends on the injury. One thing I can recommend folks is, if they're in the hospital, try to walk around as much. Use your incentive spirometer. We talk about those things.
Right.
Things like that, just to help to expand the lung and get it fully expanded up against the chest wall and create some inflammation that will help seal it.
So that heavy breathing, the deeper breaths
Yeah, the
will
deeper
help.
breaths will actually help. Yeah, if you sit there, wrapped up in a. Now, again, most people are not feeling well when they have a pneumothorax to that
Sure.
degree. They have a tube in their side that hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like what I tell folks: if you take your thumb and just push hard between your ribs,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. But don't take your finger away for 5 days.
Oh man. Yeah.
And that's what you get.
Right.
Have
So-
you ever tried an incentive spirometer?
Yeah.
Yourself?
I don't know if I've actually tried it. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was one of the lucky guys that got COVID and was
Oh.
intubated for 8 days
Yeah.
and
Congrats.
at Cooper for
Oh,
3 weeks.
Jesus.
And,
Frank was
yeah, I was really sick.
in a bad way, man.
And
Yeah.
and I remember, after I self-extubated, of course, that next 3 days, like trying to use that freaking incentive spirometer.
Right.
I mean, if I got to 300 mLs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was patting myself on the back.
It's that
it
hard.
was
huh?
that hard.
Yeah.
And progressively over the course of days with weeks and actually months,
Yeah.
you know, those numbers would get better and better and better.
Right.
But it
was really
freaking-
a struggle
Oh
early
my
on.
gosh.
And it hurt?
It hurt.
Yeah.
It didn't feel normal. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
What hurt? Like when you say it hurt, like your chest hurt when you tried to take a deep breath?
Right.
What
So,
hurt?
I'm sure that I was so inflamed and just so
Pleuritic?
sore. Yeah, pleuritic. I mean, I was prone, so I was
Yeah.
on my chest for the longest time.
Yeah.
So any type of look, you go to the gym and you start working out. Next
Yeah.
day, you're hurt.
Right.
It was that type of pain. Like
Yeah.
my whole, you know, chest and back and you know my lower rib cage area.
Nowadays, my workout's a little easier. I don't hurt so much anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't imagine, you know, having like a tube in there too,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
very uncomfortable,
Correct.
not normal feeling.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Now again, that's not CJ's situation. Thankfully,
that's good.
He's
No,
walking
right,
around
right.
And he's got something that's small. We don't know. Again, we don't have imaging. We don't know anything more than that. But
We have to assume, I guess, if he's not in the hospital with a chest tube, that in all probability
yeah,
it's small.
Yeah, and hopefully this thing will resolve, you know, quickly. And again, you know, we kind of mentioned it. You know, how long is he going to be out? And it really is. I think the reports say they're going to get follow-up X-rays on a
Right.
weekly basis, which most folks would do just to see if that air leak, or not the air leak, but the pneumothorax is going away.
Right.
But again, whatever popped,
Right.
right, that's got a seal.
Yeah.
And so it's always that caveat, like how long do you wait? I mean, it's kind of that unknown, you know, we usually say 2 to 4 weeks,
Right.
you know, and again, is he having pain? Is he uncomfortable right now? No one knows, but I think he'll be down for some, you know, weeks at least.
Now
So-
this might
oh, go ahead.
might be getting in the weeds a little more detailed than we need for the average individual. There may be a couple out there that may get help with. What is it they're actually looking for on the X-ray? What is it that you're actually seeing that would indicate, yeah, no, this guy's got a pneumothorax?
Yeah, so what you'll see on an X-ray, usually the lung field should go all the way up to the edge of the ribs.
Right.
What you're seeing on an X-ray is you'll see a gap. You'll see
Yeah.
a gap between the edge of the lung and the chest wall of the ribs.
Right.
You want to see that gap go away.
Right.
You want the lung to fully re-expand and fill that space.
Right.
So that's what you're looking
So
for.
it sort of looks like lung, the entire field of
Yeah.
the lung, as opposed to a little
Yeah.
clear area.
A little clear area, which is the air.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So does the fact that he has a history of this back 2 years ago, how does that help or hurt his recovery?
Yeah, exactly. That raises a lot of questions.
Right.
Yeah.
As we talked about, because
100 questions.
Because again, he didn't have a rib fracture.
Right.
There was nothing poking the rib or the lung last time. He had a contusion. He probably just got hit hard, like a lot of these guys do.
Yeah.
But he collapsed his lung.
Right.
So that kind of brings in the spectrum of these, you know, kids who develop spontaneous pneumos
Right.
for no good reason, like you said, just sitting watching TV.
Reaching for a beer.
So, you know, and that's a whole kind of situation. So the background to that is usually those folks that we see, you know, and they come into the hospital and need a tube. First event, we usually don't offer them an operation. We really haven't talked about surgery much here. Which,
We're gonna get there soon.
We're going to get there,
Right.
but that's a possibility. But at one-time event, and if you put a tube in and the air leak and the pneumothorax goes away, comes out, they go out.
Yeah.
They go home. Those folks have about a 15 to 20% lifetime risk of developing a second one.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the question is he in that category of folks that now
15, 20%?
we're at risk of developing a
Pretty
second
high
one?
number, actually, when I
Yeah,
think
it
about
depends
it.
how you look at it,
Yeah.
right? Some skeptics would say, "Oh, that's great. That's only 75% or 85% chance it will never happen again."
Right.
So it depends on how you know.
And someone else says 1 in 5. Man.
Right.
Right.
Glass half full, half
Right,
empty.
right,
you know,
right.
It's one of those things. But if they come back with a second event, then that's usually when we say, okay, you're going to need something surgically to prevent a third event, because then that risk goes up well above 50%.
So if you have a second one, the possibility of a third one goes up higher.
Yeah, much higher. We're talking 50, 75%. So that's
wow.
generally
This is
the
big.
indication for surgery. So in his particular situation, that's the big question. What are we calling the first one? Was
Right.
it, you know, this one of these spontaneous, and now he just had one out of the blue again?
Right.
So that brings
Or was it
in the-
more of a blunt trauma, like you
yeah,
said? Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you able to tell if that second injury is in the same location, or like does that show up on
You
That's a
X-ray?
good
really
question.
can. It's kind of a vague. Yeah, good question. All we know, it's on the same side. That's number
Yeah.
one.
We do know that.
I think we've clarified that from what we could gather, but you can't tell. You
So
can't
that's
tell.
when doing like a video-assisted thoracoscopic
That's
surgery.
when we talk about surgery, going in there, thoracoscopically and basically creating what we call pleurodesis on the inside to make that lung
Big word.
stick. Yeah, big
What does that
word.
mean?
Yeah, exactly. So when we treat, just to get a little minutia out of the way,
Thank you.
when we do surgery for these situations, what we want to do is basically, we do two things. One is the pleurodesis. And what we do is rub up the inside of the chest wall.
Right.
So when the lung re-expands, it creates this inflammation. So the lung and the chest wall now fuse together. So the idea there is you have fusion, the lung can't collapse in the future, regardless of what happens. We also take off, like I said, these micro bubbles, right? Most folks have micro bubbles.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to your question is, where is the source? Usually it is the top of the lung.
Okay.
We kind of know that historically, but you can't tell on X-ray or imaging.
Sure.
But because of that, we always take a little bit off the top, as I say.
Take a little every time.
Is the lining thinner up there versus lower?
No, it's just the way it's the way Mother Nature made us.
That's how it goes.
And we have these little bubbles at the top, and that's the physiology. That's where they're going to rupture if they're going to rupture. So we usually staple those out, and usually when you go in, you can kind of see like little changes that you may not see on a CAT scan or something. So we take those out of the circulation, so to speak.
Yeah.
We do the pleurodesis, put a tube in, expand the lung, wait a couple days, pull the tube, and go home. And most folks do very well long term with that.
Right. So I have a question for you because I've not actually seen this, in my experience. So just sort of applying the way that it goes with some of the stuff that we actually do from an orthopedic standpoint, and scoping a knee and this and that and whatnot. We fill the knee up with fluid. This way it gives you excellent visualization. You can kind of see everywhere. The way I'm imagining it in my head, when you put the scope in, that you in that area where there's a little bit of air leaked in, you have a little bit of space to see what's going on, but that will be right there at the top.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the lung?
I
Do you have to
forgot to
collapse the
mention.
lung?
we
this is to be able to
collapse the
see.
lung.
This is an anesthesia guy's question.
Oh, here we
answer
go.
here.
That's where he comes
Yeah.
in.
Yes,
Yes.
because I'm putting a breathing tube in that's
Yeah.
double lumen,
Okay.
so we can ventilate the good lung,
Yeah.
and we can drop or not ventilate the operative.
Can you
lung.
control how much you deflate the balloon, so to speak? Like
Well, it's
halfway kind
so
of.
it's a double channel.
Yeah.
So if you're operating on, let's say, the left side,
Yeah.
I can blow up a balloon,
Yeah.
ventilate through the right side of the lung, and then that left side we just open up to air,
Right.
and it just deflates.
And does it just shrink all the way down? Like,
Correct.
How about
Correct.
that, man?
So we cannot work in the chest space unless we deflate the lung. It's
it.
interface. There's
Yeah.
no space to work. So
Right.
so we have to create a pneumothorax every time I do surgery.
Yeah.
In essence, right?
Why do I remember? And again, I might be getting too detailed, and I may be 100% wrong. But could you do it like they would spray like talcum powder or something or other to?
Yes. So talc is another irritant. That's like a pleurodesing event.
Right.
So talc in general. So not to get more minutia here, but important to know. So talc. This is sterile talc. Number one, we don't take it off. We don't go to CVS and buy talc. But basically, talc does the same thing. It causes a significant inflammatory response.
Right.
Historically, people are always worried about putting talc into young people, but that's panned out not to be an issue.
Okay.
But I generally don't use talc in young folks because talc is it works so well.
Yeah.
If you ever need surgery in the future, forget it. It is like
really?
cement going back.
Because it seals the lung right to the chest wall.
Yeah, very well. And so we use that more for malignant folks, like malignant effusions and things like that.
Got it.
Where that's not a concern. But when I put talc in folks, I know I'm never going back in that chest.
Wow. That's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah. So it is. It works well, but it's like I tell folks, it's like cement going back, and I've unfortunately had to do that.
Yeah.
Over the course of my career in certain
That's
situations.
always worrisome. That's always
And that's usually a thoracotomy where not small port access, it's bigger incisions. So
Got
it's
it.
a bigger deal.
Got it.
Right.
Frank, what do we got on the table next?
Yeah.
Well, you poured it before I could make a comment.
Oh no, I'm sorry, buddy.
But that's okay. We can still do a comparison.
I couldn't resist. It looks so delicious.
So what I wanted to point out here is if you look at this other dark beer we have here,
Yeah, also looks delicious.
okay, it has a carbonation ring on it.
It does.
All right, so that means that liquid is able to hold on to those tiny little carbon dioxide bubbles.
Okay.
All right, they attach these small little proteins in there. They can hold on to. There's nothing interfering.
Right.
All right. Then when we go and we add different adjuncts to these liquids
Yes, sir.
that may have a different, maybe a fat composition or something like that, it totally disrupts the way that the proteins can hold on to these carbon dioxide bubbles,
Right.
slide right off, and you lose your head right away.
So it's not a pH. Is it a pH thing?
Not a pH thing. No. It's just that it's just that the composition of the liquid changes.
Okay.
You know, so this guy here was a dark beer. It's
Yeah.
a porter. It's our PTP porter, wherever that is
One of
down
my
there.
favorites.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
But hey, what's better than, well, it's getting a little cold out. Maybe if we rewound like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Sitting out back.
Right.
You got your fire
Yeah.
pit going and everything.
That's
Kids
so-
are out there.
so
What do they want?
beautiful.
They want s'mores.
Yeah.
Right? So again, another liquefied version
Yeah.
of that treat that we have out at the campfire.
Super sweet.
So we got a dark chocolate in there.
Yeah.
We have some
Right.
marshmallow flavor, a little bit of graham cracker on the back end.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is if you took the porter by itself,
Yeah.
drank that first, then drank this, you would say, Frank, the porter's a little bit more bitter.
Yeah.
Again, it's just that sweetness is
Yeah.
covering up the bitterness.
Yeah.
So there are things that work, things that don't work.
Right.
But something like this, having a little bit more sweetness to it,
Yeah.
totally works.
I think people look at a dark beer like this and they're like, "Oh, that's got to be really strong, and that's got to be terrible." But in reality, then you taste
Actually,
it.
it's like light. It's not
light.
heavy.
Yeah.
You know, like for
Right.
dark beer, you
taking
think
away.
that, but it is actually very light.
Yeah.
It's so good. So good.
That's really good.
Now, marshmallow, that is
Wow.
a pain in the ass to work.
Is it really?
Oh, yes.
I could imagine.
So we get these 5-gallon buckets from a place that it's more or less like like fluff that you would get. You know, it has that consistency.
yeah.
Right.
So, you know, you're scooping it out and throwing it in.
Sure.
And trying to mix it all up
Right.
and everything.
Little taste for me, little taste for the beer. I got it.
No, I never do that. Okay? I never lick the spoon back there. Okay?
Oh God, Frank. I hope you don't.
I don't.
Holy cow.
But no, this if you remember, it was last year in, I guess it was like February-ish. We
Yeah.
had released a beer that we had aged in a bourbon barrel.
Of course, I remember. That
we
was
had the
amazing.
s'mores
That's
variation
Dr. Frey's
of
like
that.
one of his
Yeah,
favorites.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, the one that you have up now, I can't remember the name.
Meet Your Maker?
Meet Your Maker,
You
which
mean
I
that
was
one?
drinking earlier. Yeah.
Oh, that one right there.
Wait, that's
Oh,
what
you're
you
kidding
have
me. That's Meet Your
Oh,
Maker.
that's how
right-
we have to finish it
That's
because we never got the finished variation.
Yeah, we didn't get the finished variation in the back.
Okay,
Right.
we got it first out of the barrel.
We did. It was
second out of
amazing.
the tank.
Sorry you weren't here for this, but we got to go in the back, pull
Oh,
the little
really?
nail out of the barrel, and drink directly from the barrel. It was
Right,
awesome.
yes.
Yeah.
And then we took it
Very
out,
cool.
and then we transferred it from the barrel to our big stainless steel tank.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't carbonated yet, so we had some of that. So this is fully carbonated now.
So before Meet Your Maker, the beer that you were talking about from last year was my favorite. Now there's Meet Your Maker.
Yes.
And I'm just, it's spectacular. Sorry, I got off topic a little
no,
bit.
that's okay.
So to get back
It's
to
all
the,
good.
it's all good, right? All right. So to get back to the topic of pneumothoraces. Now, the ultimate question we're gonna try to go over is, and it's of course it's variable, return to play. But before we go down that road, there's a very kind of scary, dangerous version of this particular injury that I wanted to talk a little bit about. And so there's an entity out there called a tension pneumothorax. And it would be a pretty rare scenario, and we see that I think more in the higher trauma level scenario. But what exactly is that, and how is that different than what we're talking about right now?
Yeah. No, so like you said, tension pneumo is something we worry about because if you get air under pressure in the chest cavity, so the chest cavity is a rigid structure, so it can't flex. So basically it's going to push the lung. And if you get enough air in, you get enough tension in there, it's actually going to impede the heart function.
Right.
So now if you start impeding the heart function or blood return, if the heart can't get blood out to the left side of the heart and out to the body, now you drop your blood pressure, you become dizzy, you pass out, and then other bad things can happen quickly after that.
It doesn't get better after that.
No, it doesn't get better. That requires an emergent intervention.
Right.
Like if you have a chest tube handy, it needs to go in right away.
Right.
Or some other decompressive mode.
13 years old watching MacGyver.
Yeah.
MacGyver did. He took a Bic pen.
I knew this is where you were going to go.
He went right into that second intercostal space.
Is it second or is it fourth? Why do I remember fourth?
Yeah.
Is it second?
It's like second or third, but
I
tell folks.
Maybe it's second. I remember it wrong.
You just find a place.
Yeah, just so no one's counting, just up there.
No one's counting.
And then where? If you're going left or right, about approximately where are you going to go?
Just right in the mid-clavicular line.
Mid-clavicular.
That's
kind of
probably
like
the safest area, and just stab away.
And then what? So you have to have the right. Typically, you're not going to do it with a big pen, right? Like right. Well,
MacGyver did.
MacGyver did. Yeah, of course. Can't go wrong. That's got to be the way to go.
Yeah.
But typically, what
Young
would you
kids are
use?
like,
What would you plug in there to plunge in there to decompress that?
Yeah, like an angiocath, like an IV, some type of IV needle that's long enough just to reach the chest cavity, and you just stick it in and let the air decompress, and let the medics come in and take over.
In this outrageous situation where you're stuck and the person is potentially literally dying on the floor in front of you, and you have to do this wild and crazy thing. What would someone know, or what would someone hear or feel or experience to give them an indication that it's in the right spot?
You'll see a rush of air.
Yeah.
So when you put these tubes in,
Mm-hmm.
even when you put chest tubes in, or like an angiocath, you'll actually hear air. You'll hear air rushing at you. It's very distinct. You will not mistake it.
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. So you'll know you're in the right place when that happens.
And so and I'm going back to the med school days and whatnot. It's not really generally part of the standard orthopedics, but I remember tracheal deviation, that part of it. These are the things that you're looking for. What is that?
So your trachea should be right in midline structure. So if you have enough tension, and that's got to be pretty severe, that's pressure. It's going to push your trachea is going to deviate opposite where the pneumothorax is.
Right.
If you're seeing that, that's bad.
So if the trachea is going to the right,
not good.
Put the needle in the left.
Correct. Just go in the opposite direction.
Right. That's crazy, man.
I mean, your knowledge has that ever happened, like in a sports game, where somebody's been hit that hard? Because it can happen with car accidents and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more with car accidents, sporting events. I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
I don't think I have either.
I would think that if it would have happened, though, also it's typically the person decompensates. It's not immediate, right? It takes a little bit of time.
There's got to be some time, right? Because the patient's going to not feel well. The's going to be short of breath, and
they don't have that decline, right?
They'll have a kind of a steady decline, and then eventually they may just pass out,
And the right answer is 911, right? Like get help, grab the ambulance, whatever's going to be. That's one of those dramatic situations.
And I don't think you can get a big pen anymore, right? I don't think that.
I was looking at your pen over there. And,
Bic's got to exist. Those are the greatest pens ever. Yeah, it has to be out there.
They still have them.
I'm sure.
Lighters. So, with that being said, right? Is there I don't know I think we talked about it. If there's a certain side, left or right, is there better outcomes for left versus right, or does it matter?
It really doesn't. Side doesn't matter, correct? So either left or right, the same issue applies. Yeah, so there's no difference in that.
And it doesn't matter where you put the needle, left or right. Like it's still pretty much the same spot, just on the left or just on the left.
Right, correct. Same location, up high.
Up high.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle, up high. Mid-clavicular line. Yeah. All right. And Frank, what do we got going on here? This last little guy that we were just.
Well, I wanted to share that beauty for the end, and that is meet your maker.
Yeah.
And
which we hope not to do.
No. No. If you tuned into our first YouTube video,
the first version of this,
we talked about that.
Yeah.
About the whole story with me being hospitalized, and and my staff had made this beer to
commemorate.
I think first they used memorialize, and I was like,
no, not yet.
I'm going to make this.
I'm still here, damn it.
Yes, but commemorate a year of me getting out of the hospital. So We kept it in that barrel for almost 15 months before taking it out. Here's the cool thing. I had sent samples to Ben over in Washington. So he was our brewer at the time.
Right. That's right.
Moves his family out to Washington State. So he had just gotten back to me Saturday and just said, Frank, what a freaking amazing beer.
It's it
super
is incredible.
smooth. It's just it's 14%.
Careful.
We have to drink a
Careful
little
with
bit
that.
of it.
Yeah.
But it just
It's
does
a good
not
one.
taste like 14% at all. It's just very well balanced.
I was going to give you that one, Frank.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You got a club. All right.
I can't drink that whole thing because I do have to drive home later. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
So this was in a Maker Mark bourbon barrel. So you're going to get that bourbon. You're going to get that dark fruit. You're going to get that.
Yeah.
It's the bourbon.
14%, right?
14%.
Strong.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So-
This is a glass, and I joked around on the last show too, and I joked around on the show. Itty bitty glass because it has to be, man. It's
you
it's
gotta be
phenomenal
responsible with that
beer,
one.
but it is a little bit stronger. You gotta
Well,
go
we have a
easy.
sign up there that says you can only have 2 of those wee little glasses.
Yeah. Well, you got to be right. You got to get
Yeah.
people home all right.
No, you take the can home and you drink it at home.
That's the way to go.
Responsible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
But so good. Cheers, man. Cheers.
Absolutely.
My favorite, and I love the fact that it's it's tied to such a great story.
Yeah. Thank
Not
you
a
for
great
joining the
story, but
show.
moving story.
Thank you.
So good.
Oh man, Frank. I love it.
Tasty.
I do. I love it. So, all right. Now, this brings us down, I think, down to the ultimate question here at the end, and it's a tough one to predict, but we always try to put people on the spot and just get your opinion.
Yeah.
So, second one, we don't know if it's spontaneous or if it's a spontaneous recurrence of a previous injury.
Right.
It doesn't sound like he's had surgery, right? When do you think he comes back?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it depends on how quickly this, first of all, a lot of unknowns. How big was it, et cetera, et cetera. But, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, at least to let this thing heal.
Yeah.
And it's always that, when is it safe to go back? I mean, these guys have got to be at prime speed, right? When
Yeah.
they're going back and forth down the court. So,
Yeah. And are they at higher risk early on? Like, even if the pneumothorax is even if the air is out of there, if they take a smaller hit to the chest, is it more likely it'll recur at that point?
yeah,
Is there a
I
healing
think,
period?
no one knows, but I think, the earlier it happens or the earlier, if you get struck in the chest again, it's still healing.
Right.
Whatever that air is still healing. Now,
Yeah.
the body will heal that pretty well, pretty quickly, but it's just that unknown. No one really knows. So
Right.
it's that 2 to 4 week mark, and it depends on how quickly it goes away.
Right.
And then we'll see. I mean, this is just the beginning of the season, so they got a long way to go.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you let him stay out as long as he needs to. Let it heal once, and be done with it.
Yeah.
But to your point is this going to keep happening?
That's the scary
Because
thing.
Yeah, right.
ultimately he'll need something done, hopefully in the off season. Because if
Right.
you do anything now, then he's going to be out. 6 weeks.
So yeah, if he did have surgery, the video, what vids,
Video assisted bats.
Yeah.
Video
The
thank you.
ATS.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So if he did have a VATS procedure, pretty much done for the year.
No, it shouldn't be done for the year, but it's going to take him out. Good
A lot
6 to
longer.
8 weeks.
Okay.
You're going to have port site incisions. Things are going to have to heal, and at this level of performance, these guys
Right.
got to be top notch. So
Right.
that's kind of the unknown.
So when you say 2 to 3 weeks, is that like him sitting on the couch for 2 to 3 weeks
yeah,
before?
correct. I mean, I would assume this pneumo has to resolve first.
Right.
You want to see that go away. And then now he doesn't have to sit on the couch, he can walk around and use his incentive spirometer and things
Okay.
like that. But yeah, he's got to take it easy. He's got to take it easy until this thing kind of heals. And then, you talk about athletes being deconditioned. It's like being on a ventilator for 8 days. You're going to be
Right.
severely deconditioned. And
Well
these
said.
guys got to
Yeah.
keep exercising and pushing themselves throughout the season. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
So-
it definitely is a setback for this kid.
So I think it's great that like I guess it sounds like the and again we don't know for sure, but maybe
Yeah,
the
right,
approach
we
is
don't.
here is get this resolved, hopefully finish out the season, hopefully not have any other issues, and then if we need to do a VATS over the
Correct.
off season, do the VATS over the off season,
Right.
Yeah.
and then I'm guessing they would probably use a similar, provided the provided it resorbs over the same period of time,
Yeah.
3 weeks or so. Then 3 weeks of healing.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'd
another,
probably go
like-
back to what happened 2 years ago with him, probably a similar
like
type
a 6
of event.
week or 6, 7.
So
something.
yeah, exactly. So again, everyone's pushing these guys to get back as quick as possible,
Right.
but who knows,
He's young, but he's not super young in the world.
Yeah,
you know, in the NBA world.
Correct.
32 is kind of up there. Like
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's like around that weird middle line, right?
Right. He was having a good year, man.
Yeah. I mean, he was always. I think he was averaging like close to 20 points a game. I mean, he kind of got the trade, or got traded over or signed
Right.
over, whatever the case was, from the Trailblazers to make an impact, and he
Right.
did.
Yeah.
And he goes out. So I don't know.
I think I missed the initial part. What was like the injury? Was there anything?
Well,
No.
that's where we're lost. Is
Yeah.
that he played a game on
So is it-
Saturday night,
Yeah.
played 30-some minutes out of NBA games, pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then Sunday afternoon, it just got reported that he had a pneumothorax. And that was
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
so they didn't really give us much. There wasn't like a video where you see him take a hard charge
Right.
or
Right.
he took a hard fall where you see like whatever. It was just got ESPN update. Hey, he's out with pneumothorax.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
his injury
strange.
was 2 years ago when he had some
Yeah.
contusion.
He
rib
took an injury.
contusion.
Yeah, I
He
guess a
took an
hit to the
injury
ribs.
to,
Yeah.
Thorax, yeah.
during a game, and that was like well reported that he got hurt during a game. This one was just kind of came the next day after, which is why we bring the expert in. Because
That's right. That's exactly
because
right.
I don't know what the hell's going on with that one.
Well, that's also interesting because these athletes are, I guess, some should never assume, but they're usually managed by a team of like orthopedic doctors,
Right.
not somebody like yourself who
Right.
specializes, in lungs.
Correct.
So like who's making the decision here?
Oh,
as
that's
far-
going to a specialist to do
Yeah,
that,
okay.
that handles that. Yeah, for sure. So lots of times there you have your primary care sports medicine doc, you have your orthopedic sports medicine doc, you have your athletic training service and team. Lots of times there's also like an ophthalmologist or even a dentist sort of on
okay.
kind of on call and ready to go. But anytime something goes outside the box like that, there are people that you're sort of even though there may not be employed by the team particularly, they're going to be the go-to people that you're turning
Yeah.
over. You're not having an orthopedic surgeon manage, his chest tube and his. No, it's just not happening.
You may have a health organization, right?
Right.
Like an orthopedic from a health organization that
Exactly.
manages the team, maybe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then they
you
have-
would assume
sure.
that someone out of New Orleans has like a similar to like a Virtua or whatever
Right.
the case is down there, has their team docs,
Their system,
athletic
yeah.
trainers, their physical therapists, their whole team kind of organized. Or you contact a team physician and be like, hey, we need someone for this, and you can hope they use their network to find someone like Dr. Putzu would have put us in the right position.
Right. And then even on a smaller level than that, right? Like so we cover the soul and we cover the blackjacks before the Arena League went under, and hand injury happens, and even though some of our hand docs aren't the guys that are at the games, like I'm not covering I'm not taking care of the hand stuff. I'm shipping it to my partners who are the hand specialists. So it's just an extension of that.
Yeah.
All right.
I assumed. Just wanted to ask.
Of course. Yeah, good question. Yeah, is there anything that can be done preventatively to prevent this from happening to him again?
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
Well, don't vape and don't smoke.
That's
We got to bring that up. That's
Right.
important.
important.
But outside of that, again, it's Mother Nature. Unfortunately, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Sure.
And so I tell folks, because people ask me, like, should I avoid something and all this and afterwards? And I'm like, you know what? No. I mean, you got to keep living your life. If Mother Nature, it's in the cards, it's in the cards.
Right.
If it keeps happening, we'll fix it.
For sure.
I mean, that's kind of the bottom line.
Awesome. I don't know, any other questions striking you guys?
No, I think we kind of covered all of it, and I mean that's what we came here to do. We touched on a little bit of everything. We kind of got all around the box. I think Frank got some good ones.
I just thought of something.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, which we wanted to talk about.
Oh, well, yeah, because Dr. Poots also has an expert opinion on this already.
Yes.
While we're talking the NBA, we are mildly Philly-based.
Yes, mildly.
Report came out about Kelly Oubre, the new signee of the Sixers, got hit by a car walking around his
Crazy.
neighborhood in Philly.
Like, are you kidding me here?
Crazy.
Got reported that he has some broken ribs, he has injury to his hip and his right leg. But what do you think about that, Dr. Poots? He's got a
Yeah.
fractured rib. Luckily, no pneumothorax was reported.
As far as we know.
As far as we know,
As far as we
correct.
know, right.
So he actually has a rib fracture,
Right.
but no reported pneumothorax.
Right.
So
And lots of
he's-
cuts and bruises.
A lot of
Yeah.
cuts. Well, he's got lower extremity injuries too,
Yeah.
which again we don't know the specifics.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I
Yeah,
didn't
they,
know
Yeah.
Just, they just report, from what I read, just hip and lower leg injuries,
Yeah.
cut scrapes, and other things. So,
Okay.
Not very specific, so we don't know. But so now he has a rib fracture. Now rib fractures, I don't know if you're familiar with folks or ever had a rib fracture, but those can be extremely painful.
Oh gosh, I hear you.
Yeah. So now now you have someone who's we talk about having a pneumothorax and having pain. Now you have a rib fracture, and that now you have a broken rib. Now
Right.
again, rib fractures. We can call it hairline fractures. We can call them non-displaced, displaced. There's a whole kind of category. And I don't know what his is at all.
I don't.
Right.
I don't think we know either. I don't
Yeah,
think that's
I don't
been
think-
released.
Yeah, there's no degree, but
Right.
but rib fractures in general are uncomfortable.
Right.
So now, in any rib or any bone in the body that gets broken takes 6 weeks. We have an orthopedic.
About 6 weeks or
Yeah,
so. Yeah,
about,
typically.
correct.
Yeah. Different for
So-
different bones, but yeah, about 6 weeks.
So now you have to have a bone that heals before that pain kind of resolves completely. So
Right.
so he's he's got some issues right now, and we don't know what the lower body extremities
Right.
are and
Yeah.
issues. So right now I'm happy he's alive. Let me put
right,
it that
absolutely.
way.
I mean, that's getting hit by a car. is
Hit
not
and run,
easy.
right? Like,
Yeah, there's
oh,
a person fled the
God.
scene and everything from the one
Correct.
article I read.
Terrible.
Correct. So he should play again, but that's what it sounds like. But yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
They
Yeah.
said significant amount of time.
Yeah.
So maybe 6 to 8 weeks is
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
guess with very limited information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I would think for the rib fracture alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And then whatever else he had, yeah. So
Right.
so unfortunate. I guess time will tell. Well, hopefully they'll let us know as
Yeah.
the weeks evolve. But
I think that I read an article today that he was at the training facility and he rode the bike.
All right.
oh,
So
that's
something,
a good
you
sign.
know what I mean? Like he got a little something going with that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but still,
Snake bitten, man. Right? like everything's like all the issues, they had the Ben Simmons issues, and then the
Harden
Harden,
and all
and
this.
the team's playing great.
Finally
This is
doing
going
great.
Well, we've got it settled. Injured, hit by a car.
hit by a car, completely
Not
unrelated.
Are
even
you
on the
kidding
court.
me? Not
Can't even
on
go
the
walk
court.
to the corner store to go get some snacks or
Holy
something.
cow.
Now he is young and he's healthy and he's in shape, so
Yeah.
he'll recover a little bit faster than
Yeah.
if one of us got hit
doesn't?
by a pedestrian.
Yeah.
Right,
Correct.
right. Crazy.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right.
But I think that we almost did forget about that one. So.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah,
Dr.
no,
Poots,
Going over
that
absolutely.
was
some
It
of
was
the
a
stuff.
pleasure. It was a
great.
blast.
Yeah, for
Loved
sure.
it.
So before we go ahead and close out our tab here, we just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Energy Lab, the region's premier sports performance center and destination, Neck of the Woods Brewing Company, serving us up the coldest and most delicious beers in the local area, and lastly, Timber Reel Productions, setting us up and editing this video and audio for all our awesome listeners. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day and evening. Appreciate it.